we gather in the cosmos bright. Stars and ships take flight tonight, in the void where dreams do play. Soul citizens lead the way. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed. Squadrons call on the horizon. Battles fought, our hearts aren't frightened. In our ships we face the dawn. Soul citizens carry on. Oh, planets spin and light years fly. Boundless space where hopes reside. Brotherhood in every star. Soul citizens, here we are. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed.
Exiting interspace. Location unknown.
Everyone okay?
I'm fine, sir.
Did we get it?
Jump point is charted, sir.
Good. Comms, we got any contact?
No, sir. Scope is clear.
Keep looking. Scarlet, take us on the tour.
With pleasure.
She's all yours, Doctor.
We've got a protoplanet, no atmosphere. Unknown planet 2. There's an atmosphere.
Doctor.
It could sustain life.
Hey, greetings. Welcome back to Soul Citizens. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG, and we are back. Today is August the 10th, and I'm joined by none other than the illustrious man himself, Captain Jones. How are you, my friend? Sporting that Soul Citizens hat today?
Absolutely. Sporting a
Yeah.
hat. You know, everybody else can sport it too, Going to the merch store, get all the soul swag you can find.
There you go. I like that plug. And we never plug enough. Thank you for doing that, because I know I always forget to plug our merchandise. Hey, I had to be a little nostalgic here and throw this video at you today, Cap, and some of you who are watching. Thank you guys for being here with us. Sorry we are late. We had a little bit of technical issues today. One of the technical issue was I wasn't even home. So it was really a crazy day, but we finally on with you guys. Captain Jones, that video, no fighters, no guns, no cargo boxes, no Valicars. That was the thing that inspired me when I first got into Star Citizen, was that idea of exploration. What did you think when you saw that video, for going back and thinking about it?
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in that. I think that video really got the fires lit for a lot of people. At that time, we didn't have a lot of ship options. We obviously have 200 plus now, but back then, seeing that ship and seeing what the potential was seemed like the ultimate dream.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when I was cutting the video for this and I was watching it, and it's like, man, I forgot all about the fact that the Aquila had the whole scanning package in it. And, we run into the ship all the time, but it's not there. But like you said, this kind of inspired a lot of us, that whole idea of being able to go out into space and land someplace that maybe we'd never been, and see some things that we've never seen before. And of course, there's the ode to 2001 that CIG did there. But yeah, definitely, I think you're 100% right. This one kind of started the fires inside of a lot of us. So today, Captain Jones and I are going to be talking about this topic of exploration. And as you can see, the title for this, I wonder if any trivia people out there might know where that little phrase there, let's say what's out there. What's the play on that? If anybody in chat knows, tell me what you think the play is on that phrase. Let's see who knows what the play is. I don't know if anybody's going to catch it or not. Yeah, but be more specific. Star Trek, Fast Cart, that's a little broad. Okay, yeah. Would be specific. That's even more specific, right? What movie was it? Actually, it wasn't Kirk that I really got it from. Kirk actually stole it from someplace else. Yeah, okay, yeah. I was thinking about Picard when he said it and said, let's see what's out there. But I took it to let's say what's out there. So today, Captain Jones and I are going to be talking about our ideas about exploration, and kind of comparing it to some of the things that CIG has talked about, things that people in the community have talked about. But just to give you some background, you're going to say, Griff, where did you get all this information from? Well, Cap, I decided to use the power of AI, and I asked it a very basic question. And the basic question was something along the lines of, if we were going to make a space MMO, what are some things that you think should be a part of a game like that? Because everybody's got like their dream wish, right, of what they want to see. But I decided to ask the power of AI and see what it had to say. And so we're going to be covering some of those. And I definitely want to hear Captain Jones's position on these, because it'll be really interesting. I know what I think, but I want to hear what he has to say about this. So let's go ahead and get it kicked off. You ready, Cap? Let me see if I can get the right thing. That's the merch button. Oh my God, I got to turn off the right thing. Where is it at? There we go. All right. So let's first of all talk about exploration just for a hot second, to give you guys we always want to start out with even background so we know what we're talking about here. Exploration in an MMO open world space game can be one of the most compelling systems to drive discovery, lore progression, and player-driven storytelling. To design exploration mechanics that are meaningful, sustainable, and fun, consider a combination of procedural generation, dynamic systems, player agency, along with risk and reward incentives. Cap, do you feel CIG is moving in those areas? Are there any areas where you feel like they're stronger, or maybe they haven't touched on, as far as procedural generation, dynamic systems, player agency, and risk versus reward incentives?
Yeah, so they, from a philosophy standpoint, talk about all of those things, and we could see the vision or the potential of those happening. But if I was to really assess where we at and what our current trajectory, doesn't look like we're really on track to hit those.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that they have, like you said, talked about a lot of this. Some of it, I know, was it last year at CitizenCon? I think one of the big things that came up was talking about, they didn't call it risk versus reward. They called it something else. Do you remember what that phrase was? They had some little cute phrase they had for like risk versus reward. Maybe somebody in chat remembers. It's kind of slipped my mind now when they were doing their presentation. But it was talking about, when they were talking about like you could, however deep you wanted to go, the missions would get riskier. You could go to a certain point and stop, or you could continue further.
Right.
I can't remember what the term was they used, but they had some like internal little cute phrase they came up with, which was basically risk versus reward. Well, okay, let's do this then. Let's do a breakdown on exploration focused game mechanics tailored for space MMO. And again, this is what came up through AI, so you guys can agree or disagree. But some of these things we've seen in other games, and the question is, I also want to ask this question, Cap, while we're talking. Do you think that the suggestions here work in relation to Star Citizen? And we're keeping this about Star Citizen, y'all. Nothing about Squadron 42, just the persistent universe, because this is about the MMO. Fog of War and Star Charts. Could you read that for us real quick? What's listed there?
Fog of War and Star Chart. Players begin with incomplete maps. As they travel, they uncover sectors, anomalies, derelicts, or systems. Discovered locations can be shared, sold, or stolen as exploration data. Add player-driven galactic map and updates only with discovery.
Okay. Now, I've had mixed feelings about that first one. Especially when it comes to exploration, right? And I remember I was talking in a conversation with our friend Togi, and he raised some really good points about the fact that because the UEE exists, it's in lore, it is established. We know basically upon the Galactopedia and the star map that where certain things are. That there are certain aspects when we come into the game that we should be aware of, like locations and certain things. There's a part of me also that still wants there to be an exploration side, and I don't know where that happens. Like, does it happen outside of UEE space? Does it happen so that maybe major points of interest like landing zones are known, but other areas aren't? How do you feel that would happen in the universe for Star Citizen? Should there be a fog of war? Like once we get past a certain point, not until you get there that you can see it. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you can easily blend that approach. So if you take Stanton, for example, there's obvious areas that we should be well versed in. You know where New Babbage is, you know where Area 18 is, you know where most of the POIs are. But even now, there are locations on the map that they don't have markers, you can't quantum to them. So if you don't have a mission or you don't already know where it is, it's not showing up for you. So I think in areas that well-traveled, UE covered, you at least know where the major locations are. You know how to get to the cities, the capitals, the stations, all that. As soon as you move out into some of the more, or hopefully we move out into the more undiscovered systems, like the ones that list in the ARC star map as unclaimed and things like that, that should really be player-driven. So that opens the opportunity for, data running and things like that. Explorer goes out, and mark, they found a derelict, or they found a ancient city, or they found something that nobody knew was out there. Let them mark it, sell that data, and once you buy that data, now you have that data in your map. So it could be a blend of stuff that's known, obviously the Stantons and all those. But once we get into the unknown, it should be what we find. Once we uncover it, and once we uncover it, everybody's going to know where it is. If it's not on Reddit or YouTube, somebody's going to stream it, but at least give us the opportunity to go out and find that stuff.
Right. And that's another question I want to ask, because you just touched on something about Reddit, YouTube. There's no way, obviously, to prevent players from publishing that type of information. What do you think? Are there any ways that I mean, obviously you don't have to go look it up, right? Like I remember the first time I went to Jumptown, I honestly spent time trying to figure out how to get there. I was talking to people in game, and people were saying, go to this point, do this, do this, do this. And then eventually I got like almost there. I got there one time without any help. And then the next time I just could not get my bearings. I don't know if you remember back in the day, you used to actually triangulate how to find
Right.
it. It was really
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it was out there. I mean, you really had to work to find Jumptown back in the day. And then I remember eventually I looked
Right.
online and somebody said, oh, look for this and look for this and look for this and you can find it, right? Um,
Yeah, and even with the directions, sometimes people struggle to find it because before they
yeah,
made Jumptown 2.0,
yeah,
there was a lucrative incentive to go to that place, whether it is to get the drugs or you just want to stop somebody else from getting it. So to
yeah,
your point, you're never going to be able to stop people from sharing the information. But if
right.
that information you talked about risk versus reward, if there's enough reward to that information,
Hmm.
people can have a monetary value to it by selling the data or a strategic advantage to not sharing that, then
Hmm.
it's going to get to the point where everybody's not going to share every location they find. If someone comes across something highly valuable,
Hmm.
they might want to keep that to themselves. They might want to sell the information.
Hmm.
There could be gameplay to it. There was a lot of places you had to find. Even if people gave directions, if they couldn't find it, Benny Hinn was a good example. People, when we had the event to go find a Van Duel helmet at Benny Hinn, there was
Hmm.
people who couldn't find it until someone told them how to get there. So
Right, right,
there could
right.
be a reward to having that information. Knowledge is power. I think
Hmm.
that could cut down on some of the sharing.
Okay. Pops in Space, thank you so much for the sub. 50 months. You're an old timer, Pops. You've been around a long time.
50
Thank you
months.
so
Ooh,
much.
pop.
Thank you, Pops. We appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I just kind of wonder. I mean, I'm into exploration, so I'm the person who probably would not go and look on Reddit to find it. I'd probably want to challenge myself to look for it. But my question also would be, who's that? Oh, Ops Chief. Ops Chief, thank you so much for, was that 10? 10 subs? Oh my God, thank you so much. 10 subs. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all give a shout out to
Thank you, Ops.
Ops
Ops
Chief for
Chief.
giving out some love, sharing the love with you all tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, my question to you is, will I love the idea of fog of war, right? Like, depending on where I go, my map starts to reveal things and stuff. But when it comes down to economics and other things, do you think it would hurt the game if there are other people who get in and like there are people who might be trying to do it through the exploration way, but then there are other people who figure, let me get out there first and maybe they're able to get out there and do some things ahead of me and gives them a little bit more edge in the game. Is there anything that can be done to balance that? Or do you think it's just one of those things that just comes with gaming and it just going to happen?
I think it comes with gaming. So,
Yeah.
early bird gets the worm. You get there first.
Yeah.
You get to decide what you want to do. Do you want to keep all the goodies to yourself, or do you want to share, or do you want to sell? Give
Yeah.
people that agency to decide what they want to do with the gameplay. Some people for exploration will be just or like touring almost. I just want to go see these places, and for some people it's going to be a little bit more hardcore. I
Yeah.
want to be the first. I want to lock it down. I want to claim it. It gives people options.
Yeah, I mean, but am I being too much of a purist to say that I wish people wouldn't use the internet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's going
I
to be a
think,
lost cause.
yeah,
But
is
even
it?
if they use the internet, somebody still has to be the first one. So
Well, that's fine, and that's fine. Don't get me wrong. If you get there within the game systems, I'm fine with that. I'm talking about going outside the system to get the edge. I don't know. Maybe it's just that I don't know. I know y'all. I'm an old dinosaur. I know. I'm just holding on to stuff. I'm just holding on to dreams, y'all. I know. I should just go on and go with the flow.
it's going to happen. It's going to happen if they can build out some fairly compelling data gameplay to where it's more valuable for you to hold on to that data and sell it in game versus posting on the internet.
Yeah.
That could help, but are you
Then
going
that
to
might
cut it
help.
out 100%? No way.
Nope. Right. It's going to still happen. Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Discovered locations can be shared and sold. You talked about that a little bit. And CIJ, I think CIG has talked about that, right? Being able to share information, data. They've talked about this even in relation to, I know it came up with the blueprints, whether you can sell things or whether things are bound to your character, which I think is also a good thing. I think there should be some things that are bound to you and then things that you can sell. But once I look at it, whatever it is, it stays with me. I can't sell it to you too, so that we can't just replicate stuff like crazy. And then add player-driven galactic map that updates only with discovery, and that kind of goes along with the whole fog of war thing. I know CIG had talked about this thing of turning in information, and I'm curious as to how that may impact the universe. Back in the day, didn't they talk about at one point, like if you discovered something that I don't know if they still gonna do this, y'all. I'm just asking Captain Jones because maybe he remembers that you could have something named after you. Was that still a thing at one point, like the system or something? If you discovered something, do you remember, Captain Jones?
Yeah, they didn't give us a clear answer on
It
being
was a
able to
hazy
name
answer.
and claim and all of that.
Yeah,
They alluded to us to get the juices flowing, to get us the theory crafted. So they
yeah,
pointed us in that direction. We kind of ran with it after that, and everybody's got their exploration dreams of finding that system, finding that planet, finding
yeah,
something and naming it. And if they actually do go that direction,
yeah.
that not only gives
Hey,
very
man,
interesting gameplay, but that adds to
I'm online,
what you're
babe.
talking about before, for
Uh-huh.
reasons to hold on to that data. Because if that data gets me to the place where I could be the first, I'm
Right,
naming that mountain, I'm naming that planet, then I'm less
right,
likely to share it.
right. I got you. Okay. All right, let's tackle this next one in here. Scan and survey. I'll read this one. Scan and survey systems. The long range scans reveal anomalies, resource signatures, or wormholes. Deep scanning, such as close range, may uncover rare materials, alien ruins, or hidden outposts, and then require fitting specialized scanning modules or chips. I think CIG has talked about a little bit of this. I remember back when they gave a demonstration about the Carrack and its drones being used. Do you remember that? Where they sent it out to another system and it was supposed to be able to triangulate and let you know if something was in an area. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. The Carrack has drones that have different capabilities, and one of those is to use the drone as a probe. So I do remember that, and hopefully, it talks about ships, specialized scanners. We do know that ships have different scanning suites, different size radars and stuff. I'm hoping that more sooner than later that those actually start to impact gameplay. If we're going to have all ships be able to find and see the same things, then
Yeah.
like what's the point of flying your Carrack? Everybody just jump on a Gladius and go at it. It'll
Right.
be nice to see some of these specialized scanning ships, the Terrapins and such, to actually have a niche in the verse there where they're the only ones that could do certain things.
Yeah. I don't know. I was looking at what the prisoner said. He said using computer blades to make your scanners better. I don't know if I want blades to do that, to be honest with you, prisoner. It is a possibility they could use it for that. I almost would rather it be that you upgrade your scanner more than the blades. I think the AI, well, if they we call them AI blades. I think the blades. I don't know. That's a good question to add, prisoner. I don't know. Maybe you could do it that way. I always saw it as just like you get, you could upgrade like, a class 2 or class 3 would give you more options, more range. Maybe there's a new feature that a class 4 offers that a class 2 does. I don't want it just to be that a class 4 happens to be because of the size of the ship, but that it actually adds more features as you go along. That way, as your revenue comes in, you spend money, you get better. How about both? That could be a possibility. Absolutely. No question about that. It could be both ways. I've always been excited whenever I go into ships now, when I open up the component areas and I see an area for computer, I see an area for batteries, I see an area for scanners. That tells me that, scanning will be much more deeper than just that little pulse. Captain Jones, when the cutter, I forget which one the cutter scanner variant was, didn't they do like a whole thing showing like that cutter being like a lead ship scanning ahead for something in its video or something? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, it's got the, you're talking about the Scout. It's got a
The
whole
Scout.
scanning suite
Yeah.
that's specific for that. So if we talk about the prisoner and we see them both, I can see maybe certain ships, the cutters of the world, are ships that are specialized, you having room to improve that scanning ability even more.
Yeah.
Maybe through blades, maybe through crafting. Something that's skill based. There's something you can craft it and then sell it. Now that's a whole nother game loop.
Yeah.
But I would still like to see it narrowed down to certain ships. I don't want
Okay.
it. I want every ship in the verse to be able to just
Yeah, to be able to
throw
do
in a
it. Yeah.
blade, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's a Pathfinder.
Yeah. That's a good point. So ships like the Terrapins, things like that, that we know are more specialized, we would lean into. And the reason for those ships, right, to be able to be used, especially in group play, that would be pretty awesome. But even in solo play, if you want to find out and survey stuff. And I think surveying also came up in here too. We've also got the big antenna on the Endeavor, which is another one, I think. So yeah, the CIG has talked about these things. This isn't new to us for long range and short range scanning. I know I've always wanted us to have a better, what's the word? Not 3D. I guess it's 3D or holographic scanning. You know what I mean? At one point they kind of had it in the little scan thing in the center there, and then it went to dots, but I would love to see something that's much more terrain focused, so that when you're flying in somewhere, especially at night, like those of you who've flown into like places like Aberdeen when it's dark out and crash into a mountain because you can't see it.
Right.
I would love to see like that type of stuff, be improved even better inside of ships too. Okay. Let's hit our next one. This one's on you. Why don't you read that one?
All right. Procedural points of interest. Generate derelict ships, alien megastructures, temporal rifts, or dead civilizations within randomized layouts, loot, or hazards. Could contain story logs, relics, or tech.
Wow. I've wondered how CIG, and for those of you who, I don't know if we don't even have derelicts floating around anymore. Do we, like we used to? Do we have them floating around in space like we used to have the Starfarers and stuff out there all busted up?
Not really in space. The closest you have would be some derelict stations. And then you have derelict sites on the planet. But having procedurally generated derelicts and things like that could add to the gameplay as well. Because now when you were talking about having to go out and find it, it's not at a static point if it's something dynamic. And you really can't post where it's at because you might find it, and then the next time somebody's looking, it's in a different place.
Yeah.
So to add to that, need for true exploration, having stuff dynamically generated really goes a long way.
Yeah, because like, what's the place called in Microtech? Ghost Hollow. I mean, I don't have a problem with a Ghost Hollow, because it's like it's always there. The question is, it's not that the problem that Ghost Hollow is always there. It's like whatever's happening there is always there, right? And so to be able to have these, and that's fine. You could have that. I would love to see those become set pieces more, that even what happens there changes from time to time, right? It's not always the same type of mission when you go there. I think if they were to able to somewhere or other generate different types of scenarios of things that happen there, maybe like one time, I think it was the financial thing, right? You had to go there because you wanted to do the transactions on the machines. But then maybe there's another time where it becomes a hideout, or maybe it's another time where some drugs are stashed there and you have to find them. I would love to see them change up what happens at a static location versus what you mentioned, the ones that are generated procedurally, which can come and go, right? And that keeps it interesting because maybe you come back 3 days later and it ain't there no more, right? Within that certain window of opportunity, you happen to stumble across it, you take advantage of it. Maybe you come back later that day even and something has happened. I don't know, but I would love to see things like that happen. They're just kind of spontaneous things, but within sense, right? I don't want them to like be, in and out within 2-3 hours. I wouldn't want to see that. They talk about alien megastructures, temporal rifts, things like that we've seen in a lot of sci-fi. Do you think that they'll do things like that when we start getting out into those areas, like you said, that are outside of the UEE space, when we start getting into Xi'an or Banu areas? Do you think we'll start seeing things like that?
Yeah, absolutely, or at least hopefully. So we know that the verse is split up amongst different aliens. Not all of it is UEE. So it's safe to assume once we get out of that UEE territory that we should start seeing some more alien life, culture, structures, vessels, derelict, things that are truly alien versus, what we have now that's quasi quasi alien, made to fit a human structure. We want to see something that maybe you haven't seen before, or
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, for somebody getting there to see it for the first time, or a little bit more creativity, imagination. So if it looks like the same old outpost that you see in Stanton, then it's not going to really feel like you're finding any kind of alien structures. And if we get to the point where it all looks the same, then you're not really exploring. You just moving to a new spot.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about this idea of randomized layouts? Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. I remember when we first saw the video and they were showing us about the distribution centers, right? And I got really excited about the distribution centers, and I still am. I think they're very cool. What I'm not excited about is that, you know, what's one of the companies that owns distribution centers? I can't even think of them. I'm blacking out. What are the companies that own distribution
Great
centers?
cat.
Yeah,
There was fun.
Great Cats looks like this one. This one's, it's just that the label is different, right? I want them to actually have distribution centers, but I would love for them to have different designs in them. I don't. I know that we want to see that in the bunkers and even in the space stations, but and who knows whether or not that may happen in the future. Maybe just for the sake of what they're doing right now, they're all pretty much laid out a certain way. But I would love to see uniqueness in places like that. So that floor plan, because one of the things that's very frustrating is that when people get used to knowing a floor plan of something, it takes away a lot of the challenge because they know how the place is laid out no matter what. But if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 different variations of a distribution center, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You over time, yes, you probably will start memorizing it. But right now, they're all laid out virtually the same way. I think I'm talking about interior wise, not exterior wise, because I know exteriors are a little bit different. But is there any, I mean, what do you think about that as far as the randomizing layouts? Or is it not even too, is it too much? I don't know.
I don't think it's too much. I mean, variety is the spice of life. If you memorize a distro center, like I know if I'm doing a bounty in there and there's going to be the boss mob that spawns, I know exactly where it spawns every time, and I just wait. So the first time you did it, was kind of fun. But if you do it about 10 times, it becomes mundane. So changing it up, and we have examples of that with things like Port Tressler or Everett Harbor,
right?
Bikini Point. They're all space stations, and they're all similar, have a similar function, but they do have different layouts.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, some of this is just proof of concept.
Right.
They're dropping in distro centers, the first iteration of that. Now we got ASD sites and all these sites. I could see, I try to be optimistic and think what the potential is going to be. I could see those definitely probably having variations in the future. I think for right now, it's just what you can get out quickly and just make sure it works. And if you have a template, you can put it out quickly, and you know it works. And then later on is when we start to see the variety.
Yeah. Okay. And the 2 more things I want to ask you about that are listed here on this one: hazards. I would love to see there be, when you're approaching something that's dangerous, that there be the possibility of running into something. And I don't know what the something is. I don't know if it's whether it's a floorboard falling out from under you, or a creature popping up, or you do the combination the wrong way and you get hit with radiation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to, that you just don't know the possibilities, that there's unpredictability of that. Maybe if I open up the box, nothing happens. Or if I do the combination a certain way, something bad. Like one of the games that we play is in Scum. There's this thing of when you go into this room, you have to get the combination right. If you get it wrong, you trigger something. You know what I'm saying? And you got to deal with it. And then once you deal with it, you've got another chance to try again, right? And if you get it wrong again, you still have to deal with the issue. I would love to see, like, there being something that you have to worry about. Are they still putting trip mines in anywhere, by the way? Have you seen trip mines anywhere?
You still run into them every now and then. They're in Kleshler. They're at certain derelicts.
Okay.
They're in Pomeroy's. I don't see them as much as when they first brought them out. You know, when they
Right.
first came out, they were putting them everywhere, but they're still
Right.
here and there.
They're still around. Okay. All right. I haven't run into
Yeah.
one in a little while, but I haven't done any of those missions with the derelicts in a while. So okay. I was just kind of curious about that. Anything else you want to talk about in this one before we move on? That we're running a little bit behind.
Oh no, I think
No,
we're good. I think
we're
it's
good.
well covered.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. All right, let's hit this next one. This one's on me. Navigational challenges, rather. Nebula, radiation storms, black holes, unstable wormholes that require precision piloting or special equipment to traverse. I don't want to judge our traversal of wormholes based upon just the one from Pyro, because it's just one. I do like the fact that each time I fly through it, it's not the same. There has been question about it, whether it's not challenging anymore. That, yeah, we kind of know what to expect. Is there any randomness that could happen? Because I don't know, if you hit the edge of that thing, do you get kicked out somewhere, or do you just, I've never gotten kicked out, so I couldn't tell you. What happens if you go out of the side of it? Do you just take damage on your ship, or do you actually get kicked out of the wormhole and put somewhere? Do you know?
Very rarely it'll kick you out, but basically it's just making you start over. So either you're somewhere far from Stanton, if you're in Stanton, or far from Cairo, but it doesn't have any kind of major consequence. Not really.
Okay.
More frustration than anything else.
Than anything.
And I have yet to have my ship actually damaged by hitting anything. I've actually tried to, you know, the little columns that are in there and the edges. I've run into them on purpose, and you know, it'll make a graphical
just
impact.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah. So to your point, that would be a good area to add some gameplay where it's a little bit more skill. Maybe not to get through the heavily transversed ones like and to Pyro, but maybe some of the transient jump points that are found, or certain jump points, be a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And again, we know they're working on it, and we know that it's they've had it at one point where it was much longer than it is now. In the beginning, it was very difficult for people to get through it. And I'm not trying to judge it on this one jump point, because I don't think it's in its final stage of whatever. We don't know whether or not when systems are further away, will it mean that it's 30 seconds longer? Will it take longer, or will they all be the same amount of time, no matter what, when you pass through them? I mean, there's the reality side of it, of science, and there's the gameplay side of it. I don't know which one they're going to go with. I do feel like when I go through it, it's challenging enough that I have to focus. You know, I just don't casually go through it. But like I think Fast Card said, if they implement the kick out thing that they talked about originally, which was like you could get kicked out and be way out somewhere, then I think that will make it, you know, a little bit more challenging if you get really kicked out into space somewhere far away from where you want to be. But we'll have to see about that one. Requiring special equipment to traverse. That was another thing too. Ships needed to have jump drives, correct, to go through jump points, right? Quantum drives and jump drives are two different things. And I remember when they added jump drives to the options menu a little while back. But do people right now, is there any, I don't think there's any distinction. I know there are a couple of jump drives that are sold in the game. Is there any distinction in them that you know of?
Yeah, there's no advantage one jump drive or not. Like if you got a size 2 quantum, you're going to have the same jump drive as every other size 2 ship, and vice versa.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see if they do make jump drives, that there is something that distinguishes them other than their class size. But again, are there features, are there things that will make traversal easier or better if you're willing to invest the money into them? I'd be really curious to see if they do something like that. And maybe, you know what it could also be, Cap? It could be, we were just talking about damage. Maybe the better quantum jump drive can sustain more damage, right? More hitting the sides before you get kicked out. They could just do something as simple as that, even, you know.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, which would be cool too. All right. Okay. Next one's up on you. Alien language and alien tech.
Alien languages and alien tech. Players find fragments of alien writing or devices that must be decoded over time or through collaboration. Unlocks lore, quest, or tech blueprints.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I know I'm forgetting something that I wanted to ask about this. We're talking about lore and discovery mechanics now, guys. I'm sorry I didn't read that beforehand. When we go into these new areas, Xi'an, Vanu, Vandul, Kurthak, if there's ever such a thing that we go to, do you feel, because CIG has put an emphasis on language, right? To the point where they brought in people who were creating languages for the game. Do you think I should go to Xi'an space and see English writing? Is that
No, not unless it's an area that's maybe a hub or something for, you know, interstellar trade or things like that.
okay?
If it's out there in the middle of nowhere that hasn't been touched by humans yet, sure, it could be alien language. You know, Six had the different events contests where you try to decipher what that language is saying. They can actually build that into the game, and that's another gameplay loop on its own.
So we go back to Star Trek with the universal translator, something that we can, if you have a certain helmet on, you can read Xi'an, right? Something like that or whatever. I don't know. I am curious. I mean, I want that level of immersion. I don't know if I want to learn the Xi'an alphabet or not, but there's a part of me that wants that challenge. You know, if I go into those areas, and I agree with you, I think that because there is a relation between Xi'an and humans, you would go places where both languages would be posted. I think even with the Gatak Sayulan, they built that ship to be accommodating to both human and Xi'an people being inside of it. So I would think that if you, like you said, if we went to a hub or a major landing zone, there would be accommodation for humans that came there. But I also would think that if I go to a Xi'an planet, I don't know whether or not I'd want to see English language written on something if I'm looking at it. It'd be curious to see if they decide to go that deep into it. Let's see. They said also to unlock lore, quests, and technical blueprints. I don't know. Do you think that would be filing alien tech? I know CIG alluded to it when they did the IAE a few years ago, where oh God, what's the guy's name? The dude who went into Pyro. Can't think of the guy's name now. What's the animation?
Jax.
Jax. Yeah. And remember, Jax went to the one guy, and there were Vandul parts that were in that guy's place, right?
Right.
You know, do you think that we'll be able to access things like that, alien tech? But they're saying tech and blueprints. I don't know. Do you think we should just be able to get the tech, or do you think it should get to the point where we can actually get blueprints and then reproduce alien items? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think we should be kind of like a puzzle. So by you finding the tech, finally putting the tech together, you know, by reverse engineering or whatever they want to do in game, then that's what allows you to get a blueprint versus just coming across a blueprint from the get-go.
Reverse engineering it. That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. I would love to see that, but you have to destroy something in order to do it to a certain degree. You know, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about reproduction. I know. I'm just curious about the reproduction side of it. I get it if you're able to do it once. I don't know whether or not reproducing alien tech is a good thing, because it won't.
And it can be categorized. So if it's, you know, ship parts, I mean, in a way, we already have some alien tech with Asperia and things like that.
Right.
So if it's ship parts, yeah, but if it's some one-off alien artifact or something, you have no clue what it is, then that's just something that you find.
Yeah, something you find.
Something that, when it comes to, you know, at some point we want to be able to repair our ships, even if it's an alien ship. So if it's things that we already would have a blueprint for anyways, say we might as well have it for alien tech too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's hit this one. We'll do two more, then we'll take our commercial break because we're running a little bit behind here. Archaeological expeditions. Players locate ancient sites and must conduct expeditions using ground teams or drones. Reward rare knowledge items or faction reputation. Thrakazogs, thank you for the community sub, for that gift. Thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. There are, this is a tough one for me. I like the idea of archaeology in the game. I just haven't figured out what that looks like. I don't know if it's a matter of getting an assignment and going somewhere. I mean, I looked at games like Starfield and some other ones that have had these ideas of searching out things. I just don't know how that would work out in a random way. I get it when you're assigned a mission and the game puts something somewhere and you got to go find it. We had like those missions. Remember the cave missions where you had to go find somebody who was dead? that was your expedition, right?
Those investigation missions. Usually they were just finding me later when I got lost and died inside.
Right. Or you become a part of the archaeology by not getting out of the cave, I guess, right? I would love to see them be able to create things that are also random. That if you just decide to go looking around, you find some things that have value. And then, of course, there's the trading side of it, right? Where there may be places where you could work your way up to a point of finding some type of item that's being held by someone or hidden somewhere. We haven't gotten there yet, though. I don't think with archaeology. I know that everybody's seen that little weird curved artifact thing, but that's not in the game as far as I know of. But it's something that everybody like, I'd love to get my hands on that, even though we don't know what the heck it does. I don't know. Any thoughts about archaeological expeditions? Do you think there'll be people that will go out and do that as a group? Like something's really valuable? Just like they'll go out and fight a Valakar, will they go out in a group and go like hit a cave, and let's split up in groups and let's see if we can find it? Or will that be just too nerdy for some of the players?
If the game plays out there, somebody will want to do it, especially if there's some kind of achievement or action or rep or even naming discovery. If there's something reward goes with it, for sure. People will do it just to do it. If you build it, they will come. And space is big, so the archaeology doesn't also necessarily have to be just on planets. It can be in space. That's where it could be dynamic. They can always put a derelict ship in the middle of nowhere or a station or something, and when you come across it, you get the undiscovered secrets. And then there's a reward to it even more.
That's a great point. I was just thinking about we seem to be a little envious of Xi'an technology, right? So what happens when you find a Xi'an derelict ship that's out there and, maybe those components or there's something in there that is compatible with our ships, right? And, you just happen to find the ship that's floating out in space. That would be really cool. I would love to see some challenges to that too, that maybe, you go in there and maybe there's a percentage chance of when you remove it, that you could damage it if you don't remove it the proper way, right? There's some type of something that we have to do to be able to remove the item a certain way. I would love to see that happen. Maybe there's even a thing that says if you don't, remove it the right way, the ship blows up. I don't know. I don't know. But I would love to see them come up and create some cool things for stuff like that. And I think being in space and finding stuff would be good. That would be very cool. Very cool. Okay. And why don't you hit this last one for me, the temporal exploration?
Temporal exploration. Time anomalies or chronospace pockets let players see or interact with the past, future of a location. Tied to rare events, narrative quests, or lost technology.
That one's kind of tough. I don't know. What do you think about that? Interesting idea.
I find it interesting. The future parts where it loses me a little bit.
Yeah.
But the past, I can see going into some of the other gameplay that you already talked about, especially when it comes to archaeology and things like that, uncovering some of those secrets. Maybe you have to have the right data or solve the right puzzle, and it kind of starts to reveal some of that information for you, and that's how you figure it out. How to work in the future thing seems a little out there for me. This comes from a Whovian. I love Doctor Who, so I'm not against time travel and all of that. I just don't see how it fits into the verse that we play in.
The good thing about going in the future is that you could mess that up. But if you go back in the past, You can't really mess
Yeah.
that up. So you can actually make up whatever you want to in the future. But I get what you're saying, right? It's like, how do you plan that out? Yeah, this was the only one that he came up with that was kind of like, man, that's a pretty big stretch. I've never heard of that before in a game. I like the idea, but I don't know. There was something that I didn't touch on earlier, and I forgot. I skipped over it, guys, because my brain was way ahead of myself. I want to go back to the thing about navigational challenges because we've been talking about what are some things that CIG has talked about and things that, that they haven't, where it talks about nebula, radiation storms, black holes, and unstable wormholes. You got any thoughts on any of those? I know we've got like the Lagrange points, which kind of have a form of a nebula that we go into now. Radiation, they've started implementing that, but we haven't had radiation storms per se, other than when we had the not temporal distortion. What's the thing called? The emissions over the pyro sun.
Oh, when it was having a flare.
Right,
Yeah.
we had that. Right, that was the one thing that we had. And we don't have the instability of wormholes or black holes yet. Are you interested in any of those things happening in the game? And if so, how would you see them happening? As far as gameplay, I mean, it sounds cool to have a black hole, but the question is then what happens,
Yeah, I would love to see some naturally occurring obstacles.
Okay.
Gives expedition ships, maybe ships that have the scanning suites, or even the big telescope on Endeavor. Gives all the science and the exploration ships something to do. So if you're in Stanton, you pretty much know the routes. If I quantum from here to there, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
But if you get somewhere for the first time, there should be some gameplay around figuring out how to get from A to B safely.
Yeah.
When we had those solar flares in Pyro, that was kind of cool. That was something you had to keep an eye out for.
Right.
So having some of those in, black hole might be a little bit much. That's instant death of a spaceman there. I don't know how you
Right.
navigate through any of that. But the build upon what they were doing with Pyro and so forth, where you've got to be aware of when and where you're traveling, even in quantum. I think it would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things I like, first it feels frustrating, but then I had to stop myself from complaining about it. Whenever I'm coming into Checkmate Station, that nebula, it gets so thick you can't see in front of you at certain points, and there's debris out there. It forces you to have to navigate and pay attention, right? And so stuff like that, I do like being in the game. You mentioned about the emissions that were happening off the sun of Pyro. I do like those things. And we're talking about navigational things here, gang. So I agree. Black hole, they should be out there. But man, you get too close, you got to decide what you're going to do, and you lose out if you decide to ignore it. As far as I'm concerned, there's no coming back from that. The unstable wormholes, CIG has talked about that, putting in those wormholes that will appear for a period of time. And they may be there for weeks, days, or whatever, and then all of a sudden they disappear. So that's not that one is definitely ones that they've discussed and talked about. Let's take our commercial break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to continue on. We're going to pick up talking about player agency and progression next. So thank you guys for being here with us, hanging out, and we will be back in just a hot second. So don't go nowhere. Stick around. And if you are watching this, that means you are a supporter of the Soul Citizens. We appreciate you as always. Thank you all for being here today. Once again, my apologies for being late today. I was at a family event and looked up and it was 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even home. But Captain Jones was patient and we got things going, and we're happy to be here with you all. Let's see. Is there anything special I can tell you about? Next week, we're supposed to be doing a show called Get By with a Little Help. No, that's the song. With a Little Help from My Friends. I was about to do the whole Beatles song. But next week, that's going to be our topic. Talking about cooperative gameplay, how people come together and play Star Citizen together. And New Soul, thank you for that Prime sub. 46 months. New Soul, your dad got you beat by a few months. He's 4 months ahead of you, so you got to catch up. But thank you, man. We appreciate you. And thank you guys once again for being here with me and Captain Jones. And we are back. Oh my God, Shimpasta, thank you so much. Another 10 subber. Oh my God, y'all show some love to Shimpasta for throwing out those 10
Thank you,
subs.
Shimpasta.
Hooking everybody up tonight. Thank you all. I think just about everybody should have subs now, the way we've been going today. Goodness gracious. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. Let's get to this next one here. Player agency progression. I think that one's on me. I think. Custom probe networks. Players can launch automated probes to scan distant systems. Probes can return data over time or be intercepted by others. I think CIG has talked about this. We talked about it a little bit earlier with the Carrack, how the Carrack's probes can be sent out to scan and find things that are in a system. Only thing I really remember them talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, Cap, was they used an example of triangulating and finding a group of ships, like a fleet. But I don't remember them talking about the probes doing any other forms of scanning. Do you? I don't remember anything else.
Yeah, one of the things that at least the Carrot probes was supposed to do was help with the jump point scanning. So you could assume some of them jump points, the transients, the unstable ones.
Yeah.
And that was way back when jump points had sizes, like small, big, large. Certain ships can only go through. So sending a probe through will help make sure you can get through safely. Now that they've changed that, really don't know how that's going to impact that gameplay anymore.
Right. Okay. All right, and it said probes can return data over time or be intercepted. Now we're talking about probes versus drones, guys. So there's a little bit different here. I don't want to get into the drones because they talked about drones doing some other. I mean, we could talk about drones, but probes are something that are usually a little bit more automated. Where I think most of the drones in our game are player controlled, or they're automated. I think in the sense of the Nautilus, you have defensive drones that'll be able to be used, but probes are being sent out to scan for things, to look for things, and bring back information. I would love to see if probes do expand beyond that, particularly for ships like the Carrack. I think that there's always been this question of distinguishing the Carrack from the Odyssey. And I think that if its probes are able to do different types of things, like what you just mentioned, and scanning systems and things like that, it will distinguish itself from the Odyssey a little bit more. So I think they consider correct me if I'm wrong, the Carrack is considered a expedition ship. Is that right? And the Odyssey, an exploration ship, if I'm remembering correctly. And I would love to know what CIG's definitions are of those two words, by the way, because our definitions could be entirely different from theirs. But it seems like those ships, even though they're similar, that there are also some differences in the two of those ships. But I may be wrong. What do you think, Cap?
Yeah, they're both explorers. They have them listed as explorers. And then when you get into explorers, they usually have a subcategory of expedition or pathfinder, things like that. And just like everything else with SIG, if you go on their website, you're going to see it listed at all or none at any given time. So you're all exploration, expedition, pathfinders, depending on when you look at the website.
Okay. The prisoner says they did talk about probes briefly, similar to Eve, if I remember correctly. Okay. What were you going to say, Cap? I'm sorry.
I was going to say the reason why Odyssey sticks out as an expedition ship because, at least on paper, it's supposed to be able to stay out there. Go out there, refuel itself, be able to stay out there versus a normal just pathfinding job.
Okay. Fair enough. Alrighty, let's continue on here to number 9, exploration career progression.
All right, exploration guild or path with ranks, perks, and unique ships and modules. Recognition by in-game factions or civilization.
What are your thoughts on those?
I like where it because it already has action-based gameplay planned out. I think having that is going to be kind of critical. So You know, there's going to be science guilds in that exploration. Hopefully, it's more than just go to this POI and scan something. If you're building up faction and that faction starts to maybe even do things like you mentioned before with the fog of war and uncovering and marking stuff and selling the data, maybe being part of an exploration guild that has the faction means when you go to this certain system, maybe you do have a map versus someone wouldn't have a map because they're not part of that group. They don't have access to that information.
I'm thinking about what CIG's been doing with Wicklow, and I know a lot of people are looking at Wicklow. There's a big thing about the ships and stuff, but I look at Wicklow as not what it is now, but it being a testing ground for progression, right? Where, there's these things, you bring these certain items to Wicklow, and Wicklow rewards you with another item that you're progressively, whether it's a weapon, whether it's a ship, you're progressively moving into better things. And I'm not talking about the ship skins, y'all, because that's all cosmetic. And the ships, don't get me wrong, it's not all cosmetic. There are some benefits to getting better ships. But I look at Wicklow as being that test ground. And my question to you is, do you think that these science guilds or these science groups that we get missions from would offer that same type of thing? Because they're talking about perks and paths to progressing in the area of exploration. So in other words, do I need to start out with like a level 1 exploration point and to get and eventually work my way to a level 10? Is that something that we would want to see in the game, or does it just, or are all of them available, but level 10 is just extremely hard, and if you don't have any experience in it, or if you don't have the right equipment on your ship, you can't even do a level 10, even though you have access to it?
Yeah, we could look at the way they run missions now, even though most of what we have is combat. But whether you're doing a combat mission or Poly mission or any of those missions, there are progression to them. So the progression where you rank up that faction and they get incrementally harder. You start off with small bounties, and then you're doing extreme bounties when you make your way up high enough, or you're getting bigger hauling contracts. So they can follow that same template, because just like in hauling or combat, you gotta have the right equipment. So you're not going to do a extreme risk bounty in a starter ship. So if exploration has starter, explorer, starter, expedition ships, and you can have a similar progression. You can try going out and flying out into the unknown in that starter, but if you don't have the right ship or the right progression, you might not make it. You're gonna fly into that black hole you talked about. So it can do the same thing. We kind of have a template for that. They just have to dig as deep into exploration as they do other current gameplay they have.
Okay. And the other thing it mentions here is about recognition and in-game by in-game factions and civilizations. And I know we do have they've been working on this thing of factions, and like right now we're doing the whole thing with the planets, with the mission thing that they're doing, and then there's the whole thing with the gangs and Pyro. But when we talk about civilizations, and I'm assuming we're referring to what would be Xi'an or Banu, do you think that explorers, how can I say this? Do you think that different types of, that how can I say this? That your reputation with these groups is in the category of what type of gameplay? In other words, if you do trade, you get good trade stuff, but it doesn't mean you get recognized for exploration. If you do exploration, you can get good exploration type things from these groups, but maybe trade isn't that great. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Instead of a general reputation, I'm saying these are very specific types of reputation that you progress to with these different groups. I don't know. We'll see if it ever gets that deep. I'm really curious to see.
They showed us in CitizenCon the different guilds.
Right.
There's one guild that would be, like the science guild. So that's probably where you'd be building up more of your exploration action versus that mercenary guild where you're building up, your combat and bounty hunter. And as you progress through one guild, you're going to be getting, more high dollar bounties versus the other guild that's going to be giving you more exploration targets, or the trade guild giving you better cargo runs. So I think it could work. They kind of have the template or the framework from what they showed last year at CivCon.
Right.
The only thing that made me a little wary was when they did talk of POIs. They talked
Right.
about Rich was talking about the 100 systems that only had 90 POIs, and now you're going to have thousands just on planet, and having the clusters and the stuff within 100 kilometers and all that. So that's really the only exploration talk really heard when it came
Right.
to faction and guilds. And if you align that to a lot of what we talked about as far as things being dynamic or finding it for the first time or being a variety, I feel like that'll get old really quick. I can
Yeah.
only look at so many outposts and district centers within certain kilometers of each other on a planet for so long before you're totally bored, or that'll be mapped out within 2 days. It won't take long for everybody to map out every POI and post it on Reddit or online, and now exploration's done. So yeah, they can do the things that you see here in your 0.9, but not if it's going to go along with the exploration that was shared last year.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. This next one, expedition logs and naming rights. First discoverers get to name systems, planets, or anomalies which would be moderated, and logs recorded and shared in an in-game database or museum. Now, I guess we have a little bit of this that CIG has talked about. Like you said in the past, there was this whole thing about if you discovered something, that there would be a possibility of it being able to be the first one to name it. Don't know if that's still a thing, because that was way back. And the other one is about logging and recording shared in-game data that's shared in-game database or museum. And I know that the Galactopedia is supposed to be a source of that. The CIG also referenced that there would be things that maybe players may do that will become a part of the game's lore. And I don't know, maybe Mr. Trash will be in the Galactopedia for being the first person to go into Pyro. I don't know, but I know they have talked about that in the past, that they want the Galactopedia to be a living, breathing document. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. I don't know. Do you think that naming rights will be a thing, or do you think it'll be a bit complex to do that?
I could see there being some complexities, but I also see it can be done if they want. Really, how much effort they're going to put on it. So if we're tied to a handful of systems, I mean beyond the initial 5 that getting with 1.0, but if we don't end up with that 100 system gameplay, especially the ones that are unclaimed, that are marked unclaimed, then I see it being a little hard for them to do the naming things. And really, what are you going to name in Stanton or Casper or Terror, things like that?
Right.
But if we start getting out to those
unclaimed areas,
in the wild west, where people are seeing things for the first time, maybe you're not naming a whole system or a planet, but I could see them easily letting you name POIs. Maybe you found a mountain or a derelict, or the alien site that we talked about. I can see them doing it. They're just going to have the real estate for that
to do it. Do you think that they'll allow you to, when you build your base, will there be a Captain Jones facility? I mean, do you think that we'll be able to name our bases and things like that?
We can name our ships, so if they wanted to, we could probably name our bases. I really don't see anything other than moderation. I don't see anything holding it back.
Yeah. Okay. I would find it interesting to be able to name, like, when you, especially if you have a plot of land and you set it up, you have a name for that and you call it whatever you want to call it. I would love to see something like that happen in game. That doesn't seem to be harmful, and it would definitely have to be moderated, no question, because we could imagine some of the names that people would come up with for stuff in the game. So we would definitely have to moderate that. Okay. All right. I think you got the next one, number 11.
Decaying systems, remote planets or anomalies change over time. For example, supernova element or asteroid storms. Encourages urgency and dynamic storytelling.
Yeah. So we kind of do have that with the you were talking about it earlier, the solar emission that happened in Pyro, right? That was a dynamic thing that kind of happened, and you had to kind of prepare for it when it happened. Do you think? I know that we've had this thing with was it 2016 when we saw the sandstorm blow through? You know, that was unexpected. That we could see it coming from a distance. How do you feel about those type of things? Whether it's rain, like one of the things I don't like. Correct me if I'm wrong. Every time I've gone to the facility at Pyro 1, it's always raining. Is that right? It's like always raining there. You know what I'm talking about? The second part of that mission thing you do?
Yeah, in that particular area, yeah.
Yeah, it's always
So,
raining, right? So I would,
mhm.
I would rather that sometimes it's raining, right? Not all the time it's raining, but I don't know. I know it creates a nice mood, but it's perpetually raining there. I would love to see that where sometimes you go, it's raining, sometimes it's not, but
Right.
it's being tested for what it is. But what do you think about this with decaying systems, these anomalies, different things it says that change over time?
I think it could be definitely compelling gameplay, especially if you ever get our Endeavor. Uh, I know it's not going to be out by 1.0, they said, but we don't know how much longer after 1.0. But the Endeavor seems like, other than being modular to be able to do many things, things like this is tailor-made for it. It says their remote planet. Endeavor has telescope to see things remotely. It has research modules. It has scientific modules. So you don't want to only find the area. You want to know what you're getting yourself into. So right
Right.
now, when we go into certain places, we can look at our mobile glass and we can see, the safe atmosphere. We could breathe. We know the temperature and all of that. But how do we know that if we've never been there before? And then if we have ships like the Endeavor and other scientific ships, there's gameplay. You
Yeah.
might fly out there and it might be 100% Earth type, or you might get out there and it's like instant death. You don't know it until you research it first, and that gives ships a purpose. A lot of our ships, we have a lot of purpose-driven ships right now, but ultimately most of them don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
They either move cargo or they shoot at stuff, even if they're built to do something else. So giving space for things like the Endeavor and other scientific ships, I see at point 11 being a perfect place for that.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Bando, thank you so much for that Prime sub. 15 months. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. This one kind of leans into what you were just talking about a little bit here, environmental hazards. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier too. Exploration involves risks such as hull damage from radiation, AI defense drones, and unknown diseases. Some regions need hazard suits, upgraded hulls, or special modules. I'm trying to go down the checklist here of this thing here. Hull damage from radiation. If I'm remembering correctly, not Eva Cotty, maybe you remember, when they were doing that emission in Pyro, the ships were taking damage, weren't they? Weren't the ships taking damage from that, or no?
Yeah, so they could actually shut down. So
Yeah.
it's almost like being EMP'd. It's the closest way to describing it.
Okay, so that was basically all you do was just shut down your ship to protect it, but it didn't take physical damage or anything like that. Other than that,
Yeah, you wasn't gonna have pieces blown off your ship or anything like that. But would it pull you out of quantum and shut you down? Sure.
Okay, all right. AI defense drones. We don't have that yet. That would be scary if they put those in. We do have defense cannons and things of that nature, but no AI defense drones. Unknown diseases. What do you think about that? Something being introduced in the game that people can get sick just from being someplace, some location.
Absolutely. What do we have all these med ships for? You got the Endeavor with a 50 plus bid
Mm-hmm.
Med Wing. We got the Apollo coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to be more than just
Just from
laying in the bed
combat.
and
Mm-hmm.
killing your tier 3.
Yeah.
And having, a disease out there that you got to cure and having the right gameplay around that to do it would be fun. And it also could be an advantage. What
Yeah.
if you're in an area that you have the remedy or cure or knowledge or something that another group doesn't? There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of gameplay around that.
Yeah.
At the very least, there's med gameplay, which is
Yeah.
very lacking. They're selling this med chips.
Yeah.
There's opportunity to have gameplay with it.
Well, there's a great opportunity for both two careers, right? The explorers who go out and find this stuff, or people like you said who they're running a farm or a biodome, and they're able to produce certain materials so that can go to medical people to create that stuff. From a crafting perspective, right? For medications or whatever, maybe they've got to create a certain amount for the hospital. That's a mission that you've got to do if you're working in medical or something. So you're right. There's a lot of gameplay possibility and opportunity for that. I know for some of y'all that would be completely boring, but guarantee you there are some people out there who would dig doing stuff like that with no question. But especially if they're getting paid for doing it, they'll really enjoy doing it.
It gives them a niche. They can get paid for it. And it gives a
Mhm.
challenge when you get somewhere new other than shooting it. No matter what kind of fauna they put on the planet, we're gonna shoot it or bomb it.
Yeah.
But no, having microscopic organisms, parasites, things like that, and needing somebody who knows how to figure that out is a whole
Mhm.
new gameplay loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a question about the hazard suits. I have not had a chance to try out that radiation suit that you get when you go down for the ASD missions. One, does that suit do any good? Two, do people even use it? And three, what would make people use it if they're not using it?
So one, it is good. So that it does reduce the radiation damage you're going to get from the location.
Okay.
However, do a lot of people use it? Not necessarily. Me personally, I don't, because I find that the pros and cons of the little bit of extra rad I can
Mm-hmm.
ward off from the suit does not outweigh the extra armor I can get from
Right.
wearing heavy armor, and heavy armor has a pretty close scrub rate to
Mm-hmm.
what the others do. What they could do to make sure people are doing is just make the radiation more of impact. So there's other gameplay loops like heat where it's definitely impact. So if you've ever been on a planet that gets really hot, if you don't have the
Mm-hmm.
right suit on, you're gonna burn up and die sooner or later.
Right.
You're gonna either have
Right.
to take cover or do something. The radiation I found that if you just wait or hide or just avoid it or bring the pins, you can get away with not wearing it.
I wonder why they did that, because I've thought that they should make it so that once you get exposed to the radiation, you, like right now, if you get exposed, you go in and it goes down, right? I was hoping that once you get exposed, you stay at that level. And the longer you're out there, the level increases, right? So that's going to force me to think about putting on the radiation suits. Not just me, but even the enemies that are out there are going to be just susceptible to that, right? So my hope was that once you get radiated like that, after a certain point, you got to go to the hospital because you jacked up. You know what I mean? You got to get on you got to get on a tier 1 bed, wherever that is, to get rid of radiation sickness. But I really wish that there wasn't that factor where you can go inside and then you're radiated. First of all, that's not even anywhere near real. But I'd rather that if you expose yourself as a player, I need to be paying attention. Every time I go outside, I need to be paying attention to how much radiation I'm taking in, because I know if I don't pay attention to that, eventually I may die. You should be able to manage it, right? Being in, out, but not just start over just because you go inside. That I wish they would change about that. Okay. Yeah, I think that was.
I've died from heat. I've never died from radiation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Sand Grouper
Absolutely.
talked about toes. So, Sand Grouper's point, if I start growing a bunch of extra toes, yeah, I would wear that Z suit. But right now, I've got no reason. I'd rather have extra, ward off more bullets than worry about the rads.
Don't worry about the rads. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Salvage and recovery. Is this one on me? Yeah, this one's on me. Wrecks and lost vessels require players to EVA or deploy drones to retrieve parts or clues. High risk, high reward gameplay in lawless space. Right now, wrecks and lost vessels require players not to EVA. They did show, I remember in the Vulture commercial, that was one of the things they showed, that the person went out and actually physically had to go out and do stuff to get certain things. I know we can do it for getting components, but there really isn't any like labor work out there that you have to do. And of course, we don't have drones yet to be able to do some of that work as well. There are ships like the Reclaimer that do have drones that are designed for salvage. But again, we don't have those as of yet. But I would love to think that at some point, salvaging a ship is also an aspect toward a mission. I don't mean just in the sense of salvage materials, but maybe once you cut into a ship and go inside and do something, maybe there's something that you find that's a mission, you know, something that happens inside that ship as well. Any thoughts on that with salvage and recovery?
And we have some salvage and recovery now, even things that they label as high risk, but not really
Right.
so much high risk. I don't think it's as high as what this is alluding to. So I think it comes to that gameplay, I could see it going that direction. The deploying drones is the part that kind of sticks out right there. That's not something that's current or being talked about. So I can see
Right.
maybe having, if they really want something to be high risk, having it in an area that the only way to salvage it or the only way to uncover the clues is through drones. Like
Yeah.
The atmosphere or the area is so toxic that it doesn't matter what suit you got on, you're just not going to survive, and drones is the only way to do it.
Yeah. There's a gameplay mechanic right now that I'm doing, which is it's actually it's allowable because of the way the game is designed right now. But if the game were the way the game is supposed to be, it wouldn't be feasible to do. And that's you know, when you have to go out and get the cargo boxes off the ship that's in the asteroid belt, and you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you know
Yeah.
the way that we've been doing it, some of us have been doing it, is you get a ship that you can eject out of, you fly out there, you eject, and then you go board the C2 or the Caterpillar, and you try to get away before they blow you up, right? So there's some risk factor there, right? But the impact is minimal because all I have to do is respawn a ship that has ejection seats in it, and I can do that without any cost to myself. It doesn't cost me anything to do it. And later on, though, if me losing my ship that way and insurance was a factor, I'd be broke by now for the amount of ships that I've jumped, you know, I've ejected out of, or if I had to wait for the ships, even to get them back, if the ship wasn't going to be available for me for another 5 or 6 hours, I wouldn't be able to do that. Right. So that's one of those situations where a mission is not really doing what it's supposed to do yet. And so I would really hope that they would kind of make sure that those type of things can't be worked around later on. If I want to take that risk once or twice, that's fine, but it's going to cost me in the process, you know. But I would love to see them, excuse me, since that's kind of a recovery mission. And the reason why I was mentioning that is because that is a recovery mission. Go out and recover this ship and cargo and bring it in. But it's right now, the risk versus reward is, you know, there's no risk for me, to be honest with you, with me doing that right now. So. Okay.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yep. But easy to get my
it's all reward.
It is. Basically, it is. Okay. All right. Let's talk about social and emergent mechanics. We're getting to the end here. Social and emergent mechanics, number 14. That one's on you.
Multiplayer expeditions. Expeditions require teams, scouts, scientists, engineers. Crew specializations unlock bonuses, for example, faster scanning, better translation, or higher loot chance.
Do you think we'll get to that point where, I know we go out in groups right now to do certain things, but do you think that we'll get into the level of groups based upon, for lack of a better term, specialty? Like, I'll give you an example. When we used to play Galaxies and Star Wars Galaxies, whenever we would go out and do certain things, there were certain classes of fighter or whatever that were kind of important to have in your group. everybody wasn't the same thing. You brought different types of people out there to address whatever the issue was. And like when we do a game like Warcraft or a game, you don't take a group of just all fighters. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that do, but you bring a healer, you bring a this, you bring a that to help complement a group that goes out to do something. Do you think Star Citizen will be in that position? I know we have people who are combatants and we've some people who act as a combat medic, but will we get to the point where you've got a person who's a scientist in your group or your engineer and your medical person? Are we going to get to that point in this game where there's cooperative missions or gameplays that do that, like expeditions or events? It kind of does it right now with the ASD thing, right? You got to put that cloak on, right? Somebody's got to stop being a fighter and put that white jacket on and pants, right? It doesn't make you a scientist, but I'm just saying it does kind of do that a little bit.
Yeah, it really depends on if they build that into the gameplay or not. Unfortunately, the way things work currently, you're generally at a disadvantage to crew or ship. If you got 5 people, you're better off on 5 separate ships than 5 people in one ship. So, and to your point with the MMOs, yeah, they did have roles that if you didn't have, your tank, your cleric, your DPS and all that, you couldn't get through it. So if they build it out to the way where you're going to need a medic or you need scientists that you mentioned, or you need someone that knows how to do engineering, it'd be great. Otherwise, there's always workarounds. Even in the ASD, it's like you can open them doors up without putting on a suit and jacket. So you can solo those sites if you know how. There's always Big loves to give us a reason to solo stuff currently.
Yeah.
So if we get to some gameplay to maybe there's an area of a station or a derelict ship that you're trying to explore, but you can't get through or open the door without an engineer or someone has an engineering skill, or that they build up through engineering faction or the right blueprint, the right equipment or something, then we're always going to probably just skip over it and solo it.
Okay. I don't know what that way is that Captain Jones is talking about getting through those doors, but y'all can reach out to him later on to find out about that, because I didn't even know that was something that you could do. My understanding is I have not done those new missions that have come out that are in the PTU right now, but I have been told or heard that you have to have certain things in order to get through it. Is that true? And I don't want to say what those things are, but is that true? Certain items with you?
At a very high level, and that's very loose, because even if you forget the item, you can get it at the location.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm just kind of curious about that in a sense of players, right? Where it gets to a point where you have to have certain people, as you mentioned, maybe an engineer at a certain level or something to do something. I don't know if they'd ever build that in there or not, but it's an interesting idea. And again, guys, these are for those of you who got here late. We pulled this list using AI of things that would be cool things to have in an MMO space game. If you're wondering how we got this information, we didn't make this up per se. Okay. All right. That's an interesting thing here. All right. Let's look at number, what are we on? Number 15? This one's on me. Exploration guilds and competitions. Factions compete to be the first to chart regions or recover artifacts. Seasonal leaderboards, rare cosmetic rewards, or system ownership. Ooh. I have mixed feelings about a lot of these here. The idea of factions competing, which is something that we're doing right now to a certain degree with the what's the Race for Stanton, where we've got the different planets that are all kind of competing, right? Because they want to be able to get that station named after them. You Hurstonians out there trying to get that Pyro station named after Hurston. So we do have a variation of that right now. But this next one about seasonal leaderboards, rare cosmetic rewards, or system ownership. Leaderboards I see as being kind of cool because they give people something to aspire to. But most of the time when I see leaderboards, they're either for racing or they're for kills. Is there any other type of leaderboard for anything else besides those two things that you can think of that would be like, are you going to be in the leaderboard for being a scientist, or a farmer? I mean, what? I don't know. Trade, I could see. I could see somebody who's running in the stock exchange and doing selling. I could see who are the top people that are trading, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The leaderboard traditionally been pretty narrowed down to a select area of things tracked. I really wouldn't want whole systems being occupied and named system ownership.
Right.
Uh, and when I look at this with the factions competing, it's making me think about their quoted end game of fighting over the bubble shields
Mm,
every week to have shields and pyro. So
yeah.
uh, that doesn't really feel exploration to me. However, if
Yeah.
you did want to have some type of leaderboard, and I wouldn't want it to be seasonal, maybe lifetime. If there are things
Mm,
that we're charting, uncovering, mapping, and
mm,
that could be the leaderboard there. You know, most areas mapped. You
mm,
started off talking about the fog of war. You know,
mm.
uncovering the fog of war, finding those PUIs, selling the data. That's something that could be tracked, and that could be a leaderboard.
Right.
Um,
Versus
but when they start
players.
talking about and start talking
Mhm.
about rare and system ownership and all that, that sounds more pew pew to me than exploration.
Yeah. Yeah, the system ownership I'm not that crazy about. I know the bubble thing was a real controversial at CitizenCon last year. The shield thing, fighting for shields, it was kind of like, it just wasn't. I don't know if that one. I don't know if they're going to still do that, but it just didn't. I could tell that people weren't all that thrilled about that one. The rare cosmetic rewards, I think, is interesting. And I'll put it from a different perspective. It would be interesting that there's something in the universe that people want. There's only a limited amount of them, and people basically try to find it. You never know who has it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm trying to think of something
Yeah.
like really weird, but something that you find it, and it may be something that a person will go after as a single person. It may be something that an org goes after. Like
Right.
I'm saying like the Stanley Cup. I mean, just something that there's only so many of these things out there, and if you happen to find it, people are proud to have this thing, and maybe there's word and rumor about who has it. But rare is, but again, it's a cosmetic item, right? It's not anything that has any great impact, like the shield thing they were talking about. That's going to have game impact,
Right.
But that would be kind of
Yeah,
interesting to see.
we got an example now with everybody, spending weeks being space medics moving boxes. Well, people aren't
Yeah,
doing it because they enjoy hours of moving boxes with a tractor beam. They're doing it because with the cosmetics reward.
right,
So
right.
you can build that into exploration gameplay too, especially if
Hmm.
uh it's rare because it's
Yeah.
way out there. Like you said, let's go see what's out there. If you've got to go way out there to get it, it
Hmm.
adds to the rarity, and then that gets people more likely to go for it. And then you could tie a
Hmm.
leaderboard to it or achievements, whatever you want to call it, and
Hmm.
it's a win-win.
Do you remember the Banu Defender commercial where the woman kind of hacks into that's like a hangar or some secret place,
Hmm.
and there's all types of stuff scattered. It kind of reminds you of like the treasure room,
Right.
in a D&D game. There's all these little odd and end things in there. And I would love for there to be things like that, where you stumble into some place and there's just stuff there. I mean, we kind of get that a little bit with the Hathor thing where you go into the different rooms and there's components and stuff. But I'm talking about those rare items, something that if you search thoroughly, if you look through things, you stumble across something this is really cool. I would love to see something like that happen. Just very random that pops up. But there's a lot of opportunity for different ways they can do loot in the game ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's see. We got one more, right? This is the last one is on you. Let's hit this one. 16.
Dynamic events, mysterious signals, space weather anomalies, or precursor AI events that players must collectively respond to. Results can alter the map or universe lore permanently.
Mm, interesting. I've got one for that first one. I've always wanted the last couple of years remember when we had Invictus, and it was the year when what was it, IAE? It was one of those years when Nine Tails was talking trash. Was it Nine Tails? or was it the other group? No, it was Xenothreat was talking trash,
Threat.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Yeah.
they should have like a raid, like them jokers show up, or like when Invictus used to have the fleet travel from location to location. I always
Right.
wanted it to be like when the fleet was leaving, that maybe the fleet would come under attack and people could respond to fight and make sure that the fleet arrived at the next destination safely. I wanted some type of interaction of something that took place in there. I always want these type of spontaneous events that makes the community kind of all, you're sitting in the lunchroom and you drop your burger and get up and you go out to your ship to go respond to something that comes up on the news monitors or whatever that tells you this is going on right now. We used to watch the fleet. The only thing we looked at the monitors for is to see when the fleet was moving. You know what I mean? But that was it. But I would love to see something go off that there's an alarm or something, and you can either fight for the UEE or you could fight on the other side. To me, I would love to see something like that happen. You got any thoughts?
I totally agree. So, dynamic being a key word there. We talked about things being the same and being stale.
Mm-hmm.
Counter to that is making it dynamic. It'd be great to have, incursions from Thread or even the Van Duel in the future. That isn't, Sig made a video and told us to go here at this time.
Yeah.
It's happening. They already have service beacons. A beacon pops up or a comm array alerts something weird's going on. You need somebody to go out there and figure out what it is, and you find out this, a whole fleet of Van Duel coming through.
Yeah.
Transient jump point, and you got to fight them off. And if you don't fight them off, to keep making more progress.
Yeah.
To the point where you start taking over a system. There's a lot that they could do dynamically, and they have instances of doing it before. Like we used to get interdicted a lot. I'm not talking about the overzealous Hurston cops, but the Ninetales used to interdict you in the middle of quantum. So more things like that isn't planned out or scripted or prompted, or you can't just go on Reddit and follow step 1, 2, 3. Will go a long way to making things more exciting.
Yeah. One of the things that I was a little disappointed in with the regen crisis was that, and this same thing drove me crazy with Eve, the regen crisis should be felt by us. It's just an announcement, right? So in other words, right now Hurston is winning, right? They're at the top, right? Which says to me that Hurston should be doing really well with regen, right? ArcCorp's at the bottom of the heap. So to me, ArcCorp should be the one that's having the hardest time with regens, right? I would love to have felt that in the game in some type of way, because it would have made people fight for their home planet maybe a little bit more instead of fighting for who had the coolest costume. Because if I'm based out of ArcCorp and it says, well, you've got to wait, I don't know, you got to wait 10 minutes before you can regen back in the game, right? I'd have been like, hey, man, we need to go out here and start getting these materials for our planet. I would have loved to have seen that be the motivation more than what colored paint looked coolest. You fight for your home. Even though if you don't like your color of your paints, but you do want to be able to get back in the game faster. I would have loved to have seen something like that happen. But maybe later on that will be the case. But I want there to be game impact. I love the fact that the regen thing is there and the lore is there. But we need to feel that as players too, because just to walk through the hospital and hear the people complaining to the person at the counter about their regen, but I know it doesn't affect me at all. It just kind of breaks all the immersion for me in that particular space. Yeah. And
all they had to do was throw in time and money. They could have either made it take longer.
Yep.
Like if you ever in a ship that has a bid,
or cost more,
or cost more.
If
you have a ship that has a bid, people have to wait in a queue already in a ship if you only have one bid. So they could have made a queue. Could have made it more expensive. So if you're in ArcCorp, you're going to pay. In Hurston, maybe you don't, and then that could be a motivating factor. But
that would have been cool. Yep, pay or wait. That's it, right? Pay your way, cough up, because you're making money, so cough up the money and or, that's where your home is. And it's got to be your home base. I don't care if it's your home base, that's it, because otherwise people just go someplace else and put their imprint, right? But no, it's got to be your home base. That's where it's got to be at. That'll mess people up. They'd be hot mad about that. Let's see. I was going to say something. Who was it? Was it? Oh, it was Danger Hobo about the dropping the hamburger. Yeah, I know. 5-second rule. I got you. I got you. I got you. Okay. All righty. Well, we had to speed up through a few things tonight because we started late. We were about 25 minutes late, and we really appreciate you guys being patient with us today and hanging out with us. We do have a couple of questions here, which I am going to present for us, Cap. First of all, let's see. We have one from Admiral Kusanagi. And he said, clearly, radiation poisoning wouldn't only just kill you as a consequence. Do you feel we'll get radiation effects like you'd see in real life? Vomiting, blurry vision, bleeding out of places. Would you like to see some of that, like the symptoms start to become something that show other than just dying? Like kind of maybe they even show the degree of, how bad your radiation poisoning is. Like level 1 is throwing up, like Admiral says here. Maybe level 2, you get blurry vision. Level 3, you're bleeding. And if you don't get to the hospital by then, you're going to croak.
Yeah, I think that'll be great med gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And then during SysCon, we saw how they show we be able to visually be able to interpret what's happening to people with the nosebleeds and things like that. So they have it built into the framework to do that physically. Now they just gotta give us gameplay to go with it, and by gameplay, not just shooting somebody with a magic beam with their med gun, having to actually get to proper facilities, maybe a tier 1 facility, and get treated.
Yeah, time is running against you when you get a certain level of radiation poisoning. I like the idea. I think that's a great question, Admiral. Even if you expose yourself to the point where you're level 3 radiation, you're really bad. And maybe a lot of time hasn't gone by, but you got to level 3. At that point, you're bleeding, you're throwing up, and your vision is bad. And you've only got so much time before you've got to get to a level 1 bed. Versus if you only expose yourself to level 1, then every once in a while you throw up. You're just kind of messed up until you go to the doctor. But I love that. I love that idea. That's very cool.
If you had listened to the explorers that knew that radiation's out there, then you could have been properly geared up for it before you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We had another question from Pops in Space. He says, I hope there are exciting things like going into a cave and discovering a virus or other undiscovered species that can trigger the search for a remedy or vulnerability. All right, so Pops basically is saying he wants Outbreak in this game. Where you go into a cave and you bring something back home, Admiral. I don't know, that's the way we want to look at it. Or let's just say Captain. I don't know if that's how we should look at it. But I hear you, Pops. Exposure to things, if they bring things like that. Undiscovered species. Do you think that CIG will implement some species come into the game that they don't tell us anything about? If just one day you wake up and you're staring at something that you don't recognize?
I hope and pray constantly that they do that. I really don't want to see any more Inside Star citizens that tell me what's coming and where to find it. So it'd be nice to have some unknowns, and to Pops' point, if it's something, a virus, some micro biology related, something that you just can't shoot with a bullet, and that adds a whole lot another gameplay loop. So it maybe somebody goes and brings back a parasite, and now you got to use the research module in your Endeavor to figure out how to cure it. There's a lot of different directions they can go with that.
Yeah. And it could be introduced in a lot of ways. Something like you said, going into a cave. It could be even something as simple as the atmosphere on a planet, breathing something in if you take your helmet off. They can come up with a lot of cool things, Pops, that are hazards. I think Captain Jones said this earlier. That's why it'll be important to scan a planet, or why it'll be important to look at your Moby glass and see if there are any warnings and alerts there before you decide to take your helmet off, or even before you decide to step off your ship. A lot of times we don't think about it. Maybe there's a planet that has some type of acidic gas that your exposure being outside starts to break down your armor and your flight suit, and you don't even realize it because you just didn't take a look at your Moby glass or check your scan before you exited your ship. So there's a lot of things that could be implemented into the game that could be harmful. If you got on the right suit, no problem, right? Get on the right thing, no big deal. Got your Novikov on, not a problem. But we'll see. Even those hazard suits that they gave us in the game, I'm really curious to see if those Captain Jones will start to have any relevance in the game. They just gave us this new subscriber thing for the heat shield, I guess, with the thing that you got now. I don't know what that's supposed to do, unless you're cooking at the grill at McDonald's or something. I don't know if that heat thing is going to do anything, but I'd love to see that stuff to actually have some roles, and hopefully it will. Mm-hmm. We're gonna say
hopefully we got these ships with all of these suit lockers on them. It'd be nice to have a reason to use them.
Absolutely. All right, gang. Well, thank you very much for all of that good stuff. Good to see. Admiral says, Griff, if a monkey bite means I have to bring up a few A2s to clear up a disease from a town, well, we have to do what we have to do. I agree with you, Admiral. If you have to, that's just what you got to do. He's going to blow up the town. Oh, my God. Well, listen, once again, appreciate you all being here with us. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation about exploration. Let's say what's out there, and there's a lot of things here that AI is saying are possibilities for what could happen in a space MMO. And I do feel in a good way that Star Citizen has inferred or looked in the direction of many of the things that we saw here today. We'll just have to see whether or not they finally get implemented, and only time will tell. Only time will tell. Let's talk about, speaking of time, what we've got coming up. Next week, we're going to be doing a show called A Little Help from My Friends. We're going to be talking about what does cooperative gameplay look like in Star Citizen? What are the things that we currently do, used to do, or will do in the future that will allow us to interact with other players, and whether that's people that you know or you don't know. So that's going to be our conversation on next Sunday. We took down the information about Lore Lighthouse because, unfortunately, we got really bogged down over the last couple months as we were preparing for Quantum Vegas. Serious Fun had the best of intentions to have the thing launching right after we got done with that, but we're trying to keep it real. We don't want to keep every week saying something about it, but we had a conversation last week and said, let's take a breather. Let's get some things wrapped up. We're actually still closing out things in relation to Quantum Vegas, even at this late date. It's been almost a month, and we're still doing things. So we will be putting out a new date for that when we're ready to launch it out, because we want to launch it out and have it on consistently so that you guys can enjoy it and, of course, participate in the conversations about lore in the Star Citizen universe. So keep an eye open for that. Again, don't forget about next week, A Little Help from My Friends. We'll look for you guys to be here next week. And other than that, Captain Jones, thank you for letting me pry into your brain a little bit and having you share with us tonight. As always, glad to have you with us.
Oh,
and
glad to be here anytime.
Yep. And I think, let me see, you know what? This is really strange. I clicked on the wrong thing trying to find somebody to send us to tonight. Let's see who we've got on. Is there somebody new with only a few? I don't know. Did Fast Car put anything in the box? I didn't look to see. He might have thrown something in there. He did,
Fast
right?
Car
He sure did.
Yeah.
I got you, Fast Car. Thank you for being on top of it. Appreciate you looking out for us tonight. We are going to send you guys over to In Limbo 35, in fact. I think we rated him before. Yes, we did. We've rated him in the past. He's got 21 people watching. So when you get over there, let them know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. If you like what you see, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our own merch. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We will definitely appreciate you guys. Those of you who've been following us for a while, as always, thank you for those who followed tonight, those who subscribed tonight. As always, we appreciate you guys' support. And other than that, again, Captain Jones, thanks a lot. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. And as always, take care of yourself, stay safe, peace, love, and soul. See you later. Ciao.